Hi everybody, it's Mrs. Toth, and today I'm going to read you Flat Stanley and the Firehouse. So I hope you got my Flat Mrs. Toth in the mail, and I can't wait to go really fun places with you. So Flat Stanley has a lot of books. There's a chapter book of Flat Stanley you could read with your parents. And I just chose, actually Miss Carol let me borrow her Flat Stanley and the Firehouse. I think it'll be a great book because we just learned about firefighters. So let's see what we learn about working at the firehouse. So this story today is by Jeff Brown. Oh, created by Jeff Brown, written by Lori Haskins Horan, and pictures by Mackie Pam Hitton. Those are tricky names. All right, so I see a bike. Not used to this angle here. Stanley Lambchop lived with his mother, his father, and his little brother, Arthur. Stanley was 4 feet tall and about a foot wide and half an inch thick. He had been flat ever since a bulletin board fell on him. So if you look really closely, you can see Stanley is flat. Now, if you want to learn the whole story, that is in the chapter book, how he became flat. Stanley's family found it handy having a flat boy at home, and Stanley didn't mind helping out. Stanley held tools for his father while Mr. Lambchop repaired the car. So look, he can go underneath the car since he's flat. All right, let's see what else. Stanley helped Arthur practice his backflips. Stanley gave Mrs. Lambchop a perfect place to roll out pie crust, except when he felt ticklish. So that's neat. He can do lots of things we can't do. I think I know what they're going to do. Stanley made a good stencil too. Hold still, said Arthur. Stanley held his breath as Arthur traced him carefully. Children all over the city were entering a poster contest for Fire Safety Month. I hope we win a trip to the firehouse, said Arthur. Me too, said Stanley. I have always wanted to slide down the pole. Well, that's convenient. He's really easy to trace. The next Monday, a letter arrived. Hey, guess what? Shouted Arthur. Hey is for horses, Mrs. Lambchop said. Try to remember that, dear. Sorry, said Arthur. Guess what? Our poster won the contest. We're going to the firehouse on Saturday. Mrs. Lambchop clapped. I knew you boys had my talent for art, she said proudly. Stanley and Arthur practiced fire drills all week. Arthur crawled around the house on his hands and knees. Stanley did the stop, drop, and roll. Mostly roll. He looks like a piece of paper rolled up. At last, Saturday came. The Lambchops drove to the firehouse. Welcome, bellowed Chief Abbott. A puppy bounced at his feet. Arf, 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 arf. Don't mind Spark, said the chief. He's still in training. Look, he's a Dalmatian. Oh, what are they doing? Cooking and beds. Chief Abbott led the Lambchops through the fire kitchen. We firefighters cook up some tasty meals, he said. Mr. Lambchop got out his camera. He took a picture of the pot of chili. Everyone went back to the bunk room. Very nice, said Mrs. Lambchop. Can I see the trucks? Said Arthur. Of course, said Chief Abbott. He led everyone down to the garage. Stanley was disappointed. He had wanted to get there by pole. Wonder if they're going to have a chance to slide on that pole. Now, this reminds me of when Mr. Sherman or Mr. Patrick, Skylar's dad, was talking about being at the firehouse. He said they have to work for, you remember how many hours? It was 24 hours. And so when you're there for a whole day, you have to do things like cook and eat. It's almost like a second home. Oh, what are these? Boots and pants lay on the floor. Oh my, said Mrs. Lambchop. I could tidy up if you'd like. Chief Abbott laughed. We leave these out so we can jump into them in an emergency, he said. Neat, said Stanley. I wonder if they really do that. But it's a good idea. It's all ready for you to go. You just step in it, pull it up. Chief Abbott pointed to the ladder truck. Climb on up it if you like. Wow, said Arthur. The boys scrambled onto the truck. Spark was right behind them. Looks like they're going to go somewhere, or they're pretending. Suddenly, the alarm bell rang. Chief, code 9 on Oak Street, called a firefighter. The chief turned to the lamb chop. How would you folks like to come along on a rescue? Well, that's going to be an exciting adventure. A rescue? Will it be safe? Asked Mr. Lambchop. You bet, said Chief Abbott. Code 9 means a cat up a tree. Probably Furball again. Mr. Lambchop looked at his wife. She gave a little nod. Yes, yelled Stanley and Arthur. They look very what? I'd say they look excited. I think it'll be exciting to go on a firefighter adventure, the truck ride. There they are. And let's see. The boys are up front, but all of the firefighters are wearing their hats and their full uniform. They're ready and prepared. Stanley, turn on the siren. Arthur, hit the lights, shouted Chief Abbott. My goodness, is that necessary? Asked Mrs. Lambchop. No, said Chief Abbott, but it's just more fun this way. The truck raced out of the station. Soon it pulled up to a tall tree. A tiny cat shivered at the top. Poor cat. There he is, way up in the tree. She's pretty high up this time, said Chief Abbott. Spark panted at the chief's feet. All right, let's get her down. The two firefighters raised the ladder. The lamb chop moved out of the way. Chief Abbott climbed until Furball was just a few feet away. Good, kitty, he said, stretching out his hands. Come here, Furball. Oh no! What's happening? Spark started to bark. Arf, arf, arf. For a second, Furball froze. Then she jumped the other way. Furball! Cried Chief Abbott. It was too late. Furball was heading for the ground. The lamb chops looked up. Their mouths were open with surprise. What's going to happen? Predict what will happen to Furball. I think maybe one of the lamb chops is going to catch him. Maybe it will be Mr. Lamb Chop because he's really strong. Or maybe Flat Stanley would help because he's flat. Let's see what the correct prediction is. Huh? There's Flat Stanley. All at once, Stanley threw himself onto the grass. Grab my hands, he told his mother. Mrs. Lamb Chop grabbed his hands. Grab my feet, he told Arthur. But Arthur didn't move. Hey, shouted Mrs. Lamb Chop at the top of her lungs. Grab his feet. Arthur blinked. He grabbed Stanley's feet. Mom means business. Stanley is going to be a nice surface for him to lay on. Stretch, cried Stanley. Arthur and Mrs. Lambchop stretched Stanley between them. They were not second too soon. Boing! Meow! Furball bounced on Stanley's belly, then landed safely on the ground. The firefighters started clapping. Arthur and Mrs. Lambchop stood Stanley back up. Arthur looked at his mother. Hay is for horses, he said. Remember? Mrs. Lambchop grinned. Good work, Lamb Chops. Chief Abbott said Chief Abbott racing over. How can we ever thank you? Well, said Stanley, there is one thing. What do you think Stanley is going to ask? Let's see if you have a prediction. They're going down that fire pole. So I hope you enjoyed Flat Stanley and the Firehouse. There are many other more Flat Stanley books. So if you like, you can check them out on YouTube, or you can reserve them at the local library. You can still check out books at the library. You just have to reserve them, and then you pick them up, and then you'll be able to return them. So for Mrs. Toth at Garden Elementary, I'll see you later.